All right, guys, you know what time it is. Let's talk about the 4 stocks that I'm currently looking to buy the most. And let's see exactly what those stocks are, exactly what I'm saying. And honestly, let me know if you guys are looking at those same stocks or something different as well. Up market, down market, doesn't matter. There's always stocks to buy. So let's talk about the ones that I'm looking to buy right now today. I just ask that you gently tap that like button and consider subscribing to It's Super Easy to Do if you like the truth without the hype. Now remember, these are just the 4 stocks that I'm targeting the most right now. I actually have 15 on my watch list. Obviously nobody wants to hear me go through 15 different stocks and the reasons why and such. But nonetheless, there's 15 of them on there. So definitely take a look at your watch list there. Make sure you're creating a watch list. Make sure you're putting price targets on there, doing all that sort of pre-work ahead of time. So that way you're not stuck when, the market has a big dip or there's a big event or just something happens or sometimes Wall Street just gets dumb. That way you have a list right there you can immediately refer to, immediately know what your price target is, immediately know what your valuation is and such. So that way you can just execute buys and you know what you're already doing because you've already done the due diligence. You don't want to wait till your stock has a big run or stock that you want to buy has a big run or a big crater down event to try to figure out, is it a good stock or not? Do I want to own that stock or not? It's like the worst time ever to try and figure that sort of stuff out. And trust me, guys, we've all been there. I've been there. This whole idea of a watch list and everything else was born out of struggling with that, right? Seeing, huge moves, crazy moves, and not being prepared. And, by the time I got my stuff together and figured it out, it was too late. Or on the flip side of that, I made decisions in the emotion of the moment because, you felt like you needed to make a decision on the emotion of the moment. And I ended up making a bad decision based upon those emotions, not a well thought out plan and a nice little watch list there with a price target to kind of guide me during those chaotic times. Because I can promise you guys, the media isn't going to help you. It seems like YouTube isn't always helpful whenever those chaotic times come. Everything's just kind of, I won't call it mass hysteria, but everything just kind of gets wild and it's not really helpful. So having this list right here in front of you, already predetermined before the market ever opens, absolutely helps you make good decisions and the right decisions for you, your plan, your portfolio, and all that sort of stuff like that. So absolutely, if you don't have one, I would consider creating one. And, however the heck you choose to do it, electronic, I have mine on paper. I have an electronic version too, of course, for my group that I upload there and such. But I actually physically write it down in my, kind of day planner, daily journal and such. So that way I know exactly which stocks are closest to my price targets, exactly what I want to buy. I go ahead and actually write in the amount of shares I want to buy. All that sort of stuff is in there ahead of time. So that way it's a pretty easy, transaction to make if, it gets down to that point. And even if I'm going into meetings or something else and I can't be on my phone, cool. I can just look at that right there, set all my little buy orders, and then I'm ready to go. Even if I'm in a meeting, if something drops and happens to hit my price target, it's going to execute while I'm in that meeting and such. I didn't have to think about it. I didn't have to, get caught up in the moment. I'm ready, I'm prepared. And so hopefully you guys out there are doing that too. All right, so let's dig into the 4 of these and just kind of keep in mind that I'm looking out 3 to 5 years. And these are the stocks that to me are on the biggest discount right now. That's kind of the way I kind of filtered through my list to get to these 4, is these are the ones that to me are on the biggest discount and obviously are well within that buy range for me, based upon my valuation, my price targets, and everything else that I set. So that way you kind of know where I'm coming from here in regards to these stocks. And the last one we're going to talk about today, guys, is honestly a controversial stock, and it's been beaten down because of that controversy. So we'll absolutely get to that one as well. And remember to check out the pinned comment down there if you want to join my group, if you want to see my watch list with price targets and see my buy and sell alerts and, learn how to do all the things that we're going to talk about today. It's down there, but you can get the information for free on YouTube, but it's there just in case you decide you want to join. So the first stock up would be Amazon. And guys, it just can't get started. I don't know what the heck's going on with it. I don't know why it can't get started, but obviously they made a lot of missteps, right? We've talked about them before. They way overexpanded, way overbuilt the warehouses, way overhired, kind of based upon those, when a world shut down, all the, basically you kind of couldn't get a lot of stuff unless you ordered on Amazon and such. And they kind of projected out in the future and misprojected out into the future. So that way the stock is absolutely taking, to me, a disproportionate beating down because of those missteps that they're now currently trying to clean up. Which also means we're probably going to get a good solid year, maybe more of discounted pricing. Or I guess we've already 6 months into super discounted pricing on Amazon. Let's see how much longer it lasts while they continue to clean up this mess. As a long-term buy and hold investor, that's exactly what you want to see. Hey, Amazon made a mistake. They got punished for it. And now we're able to buy shares on the cheap because it's not like Amazon isn't continuing to expand in the background. They're not only cleaning up a mess and doing nothing else. They're continuing to expand into other markets, to include prescriptions, just raising prices on things like Prime and such. There's a lot of other things that they're raising prices on the grocery. I know because I pay that bill. I get my groceries from Amazon every day, or not every day, but every time I order, I get them from Amazon and such. That price increased. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that because I understand why they're doing it. That's kind of their business model. They kind of get you hooked on something that's either free or really cheap, and you can't live without that convenience. bam, then they raise the price on you or add on another fee or whatever the heck the case is. Now, again, I understand as consumers, it may make you upset, but I own the stock as well. And from a business standpoint, it's a brilliant move to get everybody hooked on your product and then raise that price ever so gradually to kind of lock them into that regardless. Looking out 3 to 5 years, I just see no way Amazon is not a much larger company, even a more efficient company 3 to 5 years from now. So I'm happy to be able to buy shares this cheap this time around. And stock number 2 would be Google. And you guys know I've been all over Google since it basically got under 100 last year. It honestly was one of the best values in the stock market because it was at its lowest valuation ever in the history of the company. Not the lowest price. I know a lot of you guys were screaming that in the comments and such. I was talking about valuation. It's never been cheaper than it was whenever it was in that $80 range, $88, $90, whatever the heck it was. It was never cheaper than that. And anything under 100 to me for Google is an absolute steal deal. I mean, I think the ChatGPT thing is completely overblown. I still don't see, a business path forward to where just significant amount of business just leaves Google forever and never comes back. And oh, by the way, Google's just going to stand around flat-footed and not create their own AIs that some people may actually prefer. I've seen a lot of different comparison videos and such between, Bard and ChatGPT. And I would agree overall ChatGPT is better. But I still don't see me not using, Google search for the vast majority of the search items that I do, or not using YouTube, right, to actually search for videos and content that I want to watch. I don't see myself shifting from that anytime soon based upon Bard. I mean, Bard does some very neat stuff. Maybe that's a whole new category altogether and it never even affects Google search. Who knows at this stage? And I have actually noticed my search actually getting a little more, I won't call it AI-like, but anyways, it basically finishing off sentences and phrases and things of that actually a lot better than what it was prior. So I'm very curious to see what that goes, but I think that's a decade plus race that's going on here. We're right here at the very beginning of this race. And to just think that there's going to be one winner, which I think is a mistake. I think there's going to be multiple winners. There could be 6, 8, 10 different winners in this whole AI race. And to not think Google isn't going to be one of those winners, to me, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. So if it wants to continue to bounce around this $100 level, break down underneath the 100, I'll happily continue to buy Google stock. So stock number 3 would be SoFi. And guys, you can check my video right up here on it. We just discussed it. I've not seen a company execute this well in the small cap category during a down market, during just, basically interest rates going crazy, everything kind of going crazy. And honestly, a huge part of their business being completely in flux with the whole student loan debacle thing that's gone on and continues to drag on and may continue to drag on forever. And they absolutely had to completely pivot the business and they've done it beautifully, but it's just kind of been caught up in everything else. Right now, it's caught up in all the banking crisis garbage, basically everything that should have crushed this stock to where basically nobody wants to own it right now. Well, honestly, based on share price, it looks like nobody wants to own it. But in regards to the performance of the company in the earnings calls, and when you actually look through the financials and everything else, there is not a company executing. There's very few companies, I should say, that are executing as well as SoFi has and continue to execute. So to me, they're just kind of getting caught up in a lot of, the kind of collateral damage and a lot of different quote unquote crises and such, which is actually hurting the stock price. But for me as a shareholder, it started off as a very small position because the prices were cheap. And then every single quarter, it's like, man, I'm impressed by that. I'm impressed by that. How did they pull that number? Wow, we have the banking crisis and they have less exposure than the big banks do. It's simply an amazing feat. And considering that they were so dependent upon student loans and how they've completely shifted the business to where if that ever comes back, it's going to be a giant cherry on top. It's just really, really amazing to watch. And oh, by the way, the CEO continues to buy millions of dollars worth of shares as well at every turn. Everything is pointing in the right direction for this company. And it's just kind of collateral damage in a lot of different crises, which of course for us as long-term buy and hold investors means huge opportunity. So although it started off as a small position, I've continued to add to it as they've continued to perform. And if they continue to perform, I'm going to continue to add this stock at these prices because honestly, it's just going to be dirt cheap and it's going to look like a great deal overall over the long run. All right, on to the last stock here. And I told you guys it's a controversial stock that kicked up a lot of controversy last year. They've been caught up in a lot of they're kind of caught up also in this banking thing, I guess to a lesser degree and such. But either way, the last stock we're going to talk about here, and that's on my watch list that is just beaten down and just can't seem to get going, is PayPal. I mean, honestly, guys, it's just completely stalled out. I mean, it just basically had its giant crater down and it can't get moving. It doesn't really matter. It didn't get the benefit of that run up at the beginning of this year. It's now currently just kind of stuck in it seems like right there in the $70 to $80 range. It just can't seem to break out of that. And even when it does gain some momentum, it just kind of honestly marches right back down. So, the earnings obviously I listen to every earnings call with this stock and they're good. They're not great. They're not mind-blowing. They're not doing anything else, but they're continuing to execute. They're continuing to increase their guidance. Not a huge increase. Not, oh my gosh, we have these incredible growth rates and such. but they're absolutely continuing to grow, and they're continuing to move out into new partnerships and new avenues and such that haven't paid off yet, but I think they will pay out as this year goes on. And it's out of favor with Wall Street right now. And this honestly happens with stocks in general. Stocks fall out of favor with Wall Street all the time. And there's nothing you can kind of do about it. If Wall Street wants to stay dumb and wants to keep dumb and wants to continue to beat down a stock, they're going to do it. It happens with great stocks. It happens with the, Apples and the, Googles and all the other big companies, and Microsofts, all the other big companies in the world. It happens to them too, where they fall out of favor. And then by the time they come back into favor, everybody's like, oh, look at this screaming deal. How could you not know that this was coming? And all sorts of other stuff like that. And, how would you know? You wouldn't know that sort of thing unless you had really studied the stock and you really intimately knew the stock. And I'm not saying PayPal is as great as Apple or Microsoft or any of those. However, what I am saying is that PayPal is a good company that is disproportionately beaten down right now, and I'm going to continue to add shares on the cheap, even though I don't really need any more shares of this stock. I got plenty, but sometimes it's just too juicy for me not to add a few shares here and there to kind of increase that position even more. And if you want to learn how to do evaluation so you can set price targets and create a watch list, or take 5 courses for free, see all my buy and sell alerts in real time, talk to me on our live Q&As, you can slide into my DMs, whatever the case is, and hang out with the best Discord group out there, make sure you check out the pinned comment down there and see if a membership's right for you. So click right here to see exactly what I'm buying in this market, and click here to see exactly what I'm doing in this market. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.